So, if you've tried to buy a home anytime recently, you know this feeling. The frustration is it's intense. The competition is insane. And for a lot of people, the whole system just feels broken. So, when a big idea comes along, a proposal to ban Wall Street investors from the market, it sounds like the perfect fix, right? But is this ban the silver bullet we've been hoping for, or is the reality a little more complicated? Let's dig in.
For generations, owning a home was kind of the cornerstone of the American dream. But today, for so many, that dream feels like it's just slipping through their fingers. Prices are through the roof, and it seems like you're constantly getting outbid, outmaneuvered, and just left wondering if you'll ever even get a chance.
So, the big question is this proposal to kick big institutional investors out of the housing market the answer we need? I mean, it's a powerful idea, and it's definitely appealing. But as we're about to see in this explainer, the data tells a much more complicated story, and it might just surprise you. And look, this isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers, right? It's about real people. This quote actually comes from a real estate agent who had to make that heartbreaking phone call over and over again. It just perfectly captures the emotional toll of this market, where families who have done everything right, they've saved, they've planned, get repeatedly crushed by forces that feel totally out of their control.
And all of that frustration, that feeling of being outmatched, brings us right to this big proposed solution: a ban on large institutional investors buying up single-family homes. The logic behind it seems super simple and direct. Take the biggest, wealthiest buyers out of the game, and regular families will finally get a fair shot.
Okay, so the argument for a ban like this, it really boils down to a few key ideas. First, and most obviously, it would cut down the competition for homes. Second, it helps level the playing field against those all-cash, no-inspection offers that families just can't compete with. Third, the idea is that having more people who actually own their homes leads to more stable, invested communities. And finally, it's a clear, decisive action that actually responds to all that public anger.
Yeah, and this slide, it just lays it out so perfectly. It's the classic mismatch. On one side, you've got a family trying to navigate financing, inspections. It's a huge emotional decision. And on the other side, you have a corporation with deep pockets making a purely financial calculation, and they can move with a speed and certainty that's just impossible to match. It really does feel like an unfair fight.
Okay, that story of the unfair fight is powerful. It feels true. But does it actually reflect the whole picture? To figure that out, we've got to dig into the data. Who actually owns the housing stock here in the US?
And this, right here, is the multi-billion-dollar question. The perception is that Wall Street is just swooping in and buying up whole neighborhoods. But what do the numbers really say? How big of a footprint do these large institutional investors truly have?
Okay, get ready for this. The number is 3%. That's it. According to a 2024 Government Accountability Office study, these big institutional investors own about 3% of all single-family rental homes in the whole country. It's a surprisingly small number, especially given how much attention the issue gets.
And just to put the 3% in perspective, look at this. When we're talking about single-family rental homes, the market it's overwhelmingly dominated by individuals and smaller mom-and-pop investors. The big corporate players are a really tiny slice of that pie.
Okay, so what if we zoom out a bit? Let's look at all home purchases, not just rentals. A Redfin study found that all investors, and that's the big Wall Street firms plus all the smaller mom-and-pop investors, make up about 17% of sales. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a pretty big chunk. But what it also means is that over 80% of homes were bought by non-investors. So while investors are definitely a factor, they aren't the majority of buyers.
All right, so if these big investors are a much smaller piece of the puzzle than we thought, what happens if we ban them anyway? Could a move that's meant to help actually end up backfiring? The source material we're looking at argues, yeah, it really could hurt the very people it's designed to help.
Well, here's how that domino effect could work. The ban goes into effect, and these big companies stop buying, maybe they even start selling. That shrinks the overall supply of long-term rental housing. And basic economics tells us that when supply goes down, but demand stays the same, prices, in this case rent, go up. And for the millions of people trying to save up for a down payment, higher rent makes that goal even harder to reach.
So if pointing the finger at Wall Street is really just treating a symptom, then what's the actual disease? The source argues we might have been focused on the wrong part of the problem this whole time.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the argument. The real issue, the core problem, isn't who is buying the homes. It's that for decades, we just haven't built enough of them. Period. The population and the number of households have grown way faster than new construction, creating this massive nationwide shortage.
And see how that just completely reframes the whole conversation? It suggests that instead of fighting over who gets a slice of this tiny, shrinking pie, maybe we should be figuring out how to bake a much, much bigger one. The problem isn't the competition, it's the scarcity.
So, if we accept that the real problem is a lack of supply, how should we evaluate any new ideas that come along? How do we cut through the noise? Well, the source material gives us a simple but really powerful lens to look through.
This is it. This is the key takeaway from the whole thing. Forget the politics, forget who's to blame. The one question we should ask of any new housing proposal is this: does it, directly or indirectly, lead to more housing being built? If the answer is no, then it's probably just treating a symptom, not the actual disease.
So, while banning investors might feel good, the data suggests it could be a major distraction from the real issue, a housing shortage that's been decades in the making. So, the next time you hear about a new plan, some magic bullet to fix the housing crisis, you'll know exactly what the first question to ask should be. Does it increase supply?